Welcome to CCAOA's Vroom Mentor Program Orientation Webinar. This webinar is about you, a Vroom mentor supporting childcare resource and referral Vroom ambassadors. My name is Patience Hill, and I am the Community Outreach Project Manager for the Vroom Partnership at Childcare Aware of America. And we also have Candy with us. I'll have her introduce herself today.
Hello, I'm Candy Novak, and I'm the Vroom Technical Assistance Specialist at Childcare Aware of America.
Thank you, Candy. We want to welcome you and thank you for agreeing to be a Vroom mentor. We are very excited to have the addition of Vroom mentors for our Chapter 2 of CCAOA at Vroom. Your agency's experience and guidance will be a valuable support to the new Vroom ambassadors. We are so excited to have you all. So now we're just going to give a little bit of information about the background, which you all are a part of our Vroom Partnership Pilot Project, which was our Chapter 1 here. So in 2016, through a partnership with the Bezos Family Foundation, we had the pleasure of selecting you all a part of our 10 childcare resource and referral agencies, and you all became our first Vroom ambassadors to help us pilot bringing Vroom to families and communities across the U.S. through CCR and our outreach. Over the course of your 18 months, you all began a unique journey of adopting and integrating Vroom in your agency's outreach services. So we want you to think now about when you became a Vroom ambassador. What were some of those thoughts, feelings, excitement that you went through? So in the beginning, just take time now to think about what it meant to be a Vroom ambassador. What did that mean to you? How did it make you feel becoming a Vroom ambassador? And what was your initial experience like once you found out that your agency was selected to be a part of our pilot program as a Vroom ambassador? And where did you start? So now we just want you to take time to reflect on these questions and just think back to the very beginning when you first learned your agency was selected. And think about how you started to plan what your Vroom outreach would look like. So you can take time now to just quietly reflect on those questions listed here. And we also would like you to take time to write down some of your thoughts. We plan to share these with each other when we have our first group call. So again, reflecting on your past experiences, what were those initial feelings, the planning, the implementation, what about those lessons learned? All of this will help you relate and validate how new ambassadors may be feeling and kind of give you some insight on helpful ways to guide them in their planning and implementation. So again, we'll just pause here and let you reflect on these questions before we move forward. And if you need more time to answer these questions, feel free to pause this webinar and finish answering your questions, and then you can resume once you're finished and move on to the next slide. So now we're here in CCAOA Vroom Partnership Chapter 2. So in August of 2018, CCAOA and the Bezos Family Foundation announced their continued partnership support families and early care and education professionals through Vroom. And on December 4th, 2018, CCAOA publicly announced the 10 newly selected Vroom ambassadors for Chapter 2 of the partnership. And so here you will see a list of all of our new Vroom ambassadors, and we're calling them Cohort 2. So we have Chemung County Child Care Council Incorporated in Elmira, New York. We have Child Care Aware of Kansas in Salina, Kansas. Child Care Aware of North Dakota in Bismarck, North Dakota. Child Care Resource Center in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Child Care Resource Network in Buffalo, New York. Early Childhood Alliance in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Family Connections in Great Falls, Montana. Child Care Aware of Northwest Arkansas in Rogers, Arkansas. Right Steps Child Development Centers in Lafayette, Indiana. And the Children's Cabinet in Reno, Nevada. So we are very excited to have 10 more Vroom ambassadors, and you can see some of these states were represented in the pilot with you all as well. So here are just some highlights from our Chapter 2 that we'll be going through. So January 1 to September 30th of 2019 will be the duration of our project with the Vroom ambassadors for Cohort 2. A part of that, we will be digitizing and actually creating an interactive PDF of our resource guide. And our resource guide contains all of those lessons learned, stories, and quotes that you all helped us put together to go along with the Vroom playbook, but this will be specifically for CCR&Rs. So this is all of your work included in here that they'll be able to reference. And then, of course, we have the Vroom Mentor Program, and thanks to you all, we'll have you working alongside our new Vroom ambassadors to guide them along the way. And then Vroom Stories will be a really important part of our Chapter 2 with Vroom. We really want to collect all of those quotes, one-liners, stories, aha moments that really tell us how people all around the country are impacted by Vroom and how they've been exposed to Vroom and how it has helped them. And we also will have a convening where we'll bring all of the ambassadors together. It will be April 2nd through 4th here in DC. And we are also inviting you, the mentors, to join us as well. So these are just some of the highlights of what we will be doing in Chapter 2. And your agency's vision for sharing Vroom with families and providers and communities, and a successful implementation of integrating Vroom into CCR services and outreach really helped us build this framework and this path for our incoming Vroom ambassadors. So we're very excited to have you all a part of our Chapter 2 journey. So now we're going to transfer into talking about mentoring. So here we have just a very simple definition of mentor: an experienced and trusted advisor. You all are our experienced and trusted Vroom ambassadors, and we are so excited to have you work with our new ambassadors. So reflecting on mentoring, we want you to also take time now to think about what kind of mentoring have you received in your career? How did the mentoring benefit you? How was that experience for you? How do you see mentoring being beneficial to our new Vroom ambassadors for Cohort 2? So now we just want you to take time, again, to reflect on these questions. And these questions will be discussed again when we get together as a group. So we really want you to take time and write down your answers as you reflect on these. And also, if you haven't received any mentoring in your career, you can also think about personally or formal or informal, any type of mentoring experience that you've had. And who has been your most influential mentor? And how did that benefit you? Also think about what made the experience beneficial. And then think about how you see mentoring beneficial to the new ambassadors. Again, think about your experience and think about how you could have benefited from having a Vroom mentor during your pilot as a Vroom ambassador with us. So again, we really want you to take time to answer these questions. And if you need to, you can pause the webinar here and just really jot down some of your reflections based off these questions. And then again, when we have our first group call, we'll discuss them together as a group. And once you finish answering these questions, you can resume to continue the webinar. So now here we have a list of some core mentoring skills. We have listen actively, build trust, encourage, and identify goals in current reality. So let's start with listen actively. Listening is a foundational skill that other core skills are based upon. Conveying that you are genuinely interested helps the mentees feel accepted and understood. Listen to them. Try to avoid interrupting them. Resist the urge to turn your experiences and opinions onto them and summarize what the mentee and you have said. Listen first and then begin to problem solve. And build trust. Consistently engage with a mentee on a regular. Follow through on the requests and commitments, and be honest and tactful when you disagree. Also, encourage your mentees. Provide positive feedback on a regular basis. And then we want you to identify goals in current reality. Mentors and mentees should discuss goals for that mentor and mentee relationship, and think about what the vision is for your relationship with your mentee, and what do you both hope to gain from that experience together. And then we have some tips for effective mentoring. Develop the relationship. What are the Vroom ambassadors' goals for the relationship, and what are yours? What role does the Vroom ambassador want to play? Power of feedback. Provide honest, positive, unbiased feedback that acknowledges progress and supports their growth, and encourage input from the mentee. And also just be yourself. Share your lessons learned, your successes, your strengths, how your agency handles challenges, and utilize questions. Ask questions to help your mentee reflect and develop plans to move forward. Mentors do not have all the answers. And be a listener. Reflect on your own listening habits, enhance your listening skills, and be prepared to listen. Just be present. So now Candy will go more into what we expect of you in being a Vroom mentor.
Thank you, Patience. So we are going to go over what it means to be a Vroom mentor. And the first thing that we're going to start with is talking about the Vroom mentoring goals for Chapter 2 of the Vroom Initiative project at Child Care Aware of America. So as you can see, our first goal is to provide and support guidance to new Vroom ambassadors. So through your mentorship and your past experience, you'll be able to provide that support and guidance that the new Vroom ambassadors need. We also would like you to share your knowledge, your resources, stories of your success, and also the lessons learned during your Vroom ambassadorship, as well as your continued outreach through Vroom. Also, another goal would be to inspire and motivate the Vroom ambassadors and how they integrate Vroom into their outreach and services at their child care resource and referral. And our last goal would be to establish collaborative relationships. We really see this as something that will be ongoing beyond the life of the project. So collaborating with these agencies could lead to, future communication with them. So what is a Vroom mentor? So beyond the general definition of just what a mentor is, we also wanted to define what a Vroom mentor is. And a Vroom mentor is a Vroom ambassador who has had experience with outreach through their child care resource and referral by providing outreach to families, providers, and also to community partners. So an experienced Vroom ambassador is someone who mentors and supports the new Vroom ambassadors. And also, you're a trusted colleague who will listen to them, support, guide, inspire them, motivate, providing them with some positive feedback about their outreach and implementation and integration of Vroom. You're also going to be able to share your stories, your knowledge, and helpful resources. So I like this quote. I think it really sends a message about the balance of mentoring. The delicate balance of mentoring someone is not creating them in your own image, but giving them the opportunity to create themselves. And this is by Steven Spielberg. I think becoming a Vroom mentor, you will have so much to offer as far as sharing resources, inspiring them, and motivating them. And just as you went on your unique journey and envisioned how Vroom would play out in your own child care resource and referral agencies, each one of these new Vroom ambassadors will begin their unique journey of outreach. So supporting them and guiding them and inspiring them and motivating them will be a huge benefit for our new Vroom ambassadors. So some of the expectations for mentoring Vroom ambassadors, some of these you have already seen through the application process. However, we wanted to list them here again, and there might be some additional ones you may see or a clear explanation. We will also have this information in a written format for you as well, which you will receive. So a Vroom mentor will initiate the contact with your Vroom ambassadors by January 31st of 2019. So after our first group call on January 15th with all of you, we will discuss that initial contact being made with your Vroom ambassadors. I know that you've already received the name of the sites for your child care resource and referral Vroom ambassadors, and you will also be receiving their contact information in the near future. But we will talk further at our group call about what that initial contact will look like, just being able to introduce yourselves to them. But we are hopeful that you will be able to make that initial contact with your mentees by January 31st of 2019. Also, Vroom mentors will provide mentoring to 3 to 4 child care resource and referral Vroom ambassador sites. And as you know, you have the names and the states of the Vroom ambassadors that you will be working with. Also, setting goals with the Vroom ambassadors for the mentoring relationship and process will be key to your mentoring relationship. And we will go over that in a little bit more detail here later on. And scheduling and meeting regularly with Vroom ambassadors to provide guidance and support will be essential. So we're asking a minimum of once per month, and we really see this as it will vary from child care resource and referral to child care resource and referral based upon their needs and also maybe where they are in the process of integrating Vroom into their CCR&R and implementing it. So continuing on with some of the expectations, a Vroom mentor will communicate with myself, the Vroom Technical Assistant Specialist, to discuss how the mentoring relationship is progressing. And that can be an impromptu conversation where if you want to contact me or maybe I have a question for you, we can email each other or call each other, but just to keep in contact about how the mentoring relationship with the Vroom ambassadors is progressing. But we'll also be able to touch base through bi-monthly group calls. So every other month, we will come together as a small group to just touch base and reflect on how the mentoring process is going and to learn from one another. And also, on those opposite months, I will touch base with you one-on-one just to see how the mentoring process is going. We are also going to ask that you do a brief documentation of any mentoring engagement that you have, and we'll be providing you with that form. So you will see that. I will be sharing that at our first group call, but there's going to be a brief mentor engagement summary form where you will just fill in some information about your engagement, your conversation with your Vroom mentees, and we will just ask that all that documentation will be submitted by the last day of each month. We'll be able to use this information just to inform our future planning of the Vroom Mentor Program, as well as share this information back with Vroom. And then lastly, we are going to ask, and we'll send you an invite to be a part of the community of learning, which you're used to, you're familiar with Basecamp, but we're going to have you join with the new Vroom ambassadors. And right here we have once per month that we would like you to participate in some way in Basecamp, but we'll discuss that further as well at our group call. But we really would like to see you engaged in some way in the Basecamp with the Vroom ambassadors, whether it's sharing a resource, uploading a picture of a Vroom event that you recently have done, or maybe just even giving them some positive feedback of something that they've submitted on Basecamp. So those are just a few examples. All right, so let's talk about getting started. And getting started for you all will be after that group call that we have in mid-January. And one of the first things that you'll do is just to get to know the Vroom ambassador and for them to get to know you. And so here are just some tips of things that you can, discuss and share to help establish that relationship. The relationship is going to be the foundation of the whole mentoring process. So these are just some ideas of ways to get to know each other. And once again, we will share this with you in a PDF format so that you can kind of have maybe like a checklist to go by as you're having those initial conversations. But just to run through the list real briefly, share career history and current job role, maybe talk about what your agency is currently doing some of your outreach services, and also have the mentee share their, current makeup of their child care resource and referral agency and some of their key services and outreach that they provide. Also, discussing Vroom Ambassador, their broad vision of how Vroom will be integrated into their CCR&R outreach and services. So they've done some initial goal planning as far as becoming a Vroom ambassador and how they're going to integrate Vroom, but they are still in those initial stages because they officially begin January 1st, but will not have their first TA meeting with me until the second week of January. Apologize. So they will be able to share some very broad visions of how they see Vroom being incorporated into their CCR&R. And then also talk about the Vroom Ambassador Agency's perspective of what they anticipate will work well, and also the challenges that they may anticipate as well as far as launching Vroom in their community. So another part of that could be a part of the initial meeting, or maybe, a follow-up to the initial meeting, would be to really talk about what you expect from one another. What are some of the goals for, excuse me, the mentoring relationship? So things such as, what are the roles of the Vroom mentor? What do you see the role being for the Vroom ambassador mentee? So really kind of define those roles from the beginning. And how often and how long will meetings occur? That's something that the Vroom ambassador and the Vroom mentee can decide upon and communicate with one another, just to get those expectations up front. And what form of communication is best? So depending on your Vroom ambassador and also you as the Vroom mentor, what are going to be the best forms of communication? Is it going to be, a video call? Is it going to be a phone call? Will it be email sometimes? It would be nice to see a variety of ways of communicating with one another. And how often, are these, do you anticipate, meeting with one another and communicating with one another? Maybe what are some ground rules for the meetings? Set up some ground rules, see maybe what their expectations are, some things that they would like for your meetings with one another. And what support and guidance do the mentees see being needed? And also, what are the Vroom ambassadors' goals? So once again, just having them kind of share their initial goals of how they see becoming a Vroom ambassador for this initiative. So then, thinking of moving forward, and this is still part of some of the initial meeting. Once again, this might be your first meeting or a follow-up to your second meeting, just depending on what time you have. Moving forward, defining the next steps. So really talk about and confirm with the Vroom ambassador kind of what they see as the long-term broad goal for the mentoring relationship. What do they want overall as a part of this mentoring process? And then confirming the goal for the second meeting. So maybe a more specific goal. What do they want to see happen, or what are they hoping for to occur in that second meeting that you schedule with them? And then go ahead and, of course, schedule that next meeting date and determine anything that needs to happen between this initial meeting and your next meeting. Is there something that you need to be prepared with in coming to the meeting, or that the Vroom ambassador might bring to the second meeting as well? So determine any action steps that need to happen before your second meeting. So subsequent meetings, so these are the meetings that will occur after you've had your initial meeting and you've kind of set up your goals and the foundation for the mentoring process and have just gotten to know each other and established that relationship. So in subsequent meetings, here are just some tips and thoughts for continuing to support and guide and motivate your Vroom mentees. So confirm Vroom ambassadors' goals for each meeting that you have. So during the meeting, just, confirm, go over what goal was set, and then utilize the mentee's Vroom work plan. So each Vroom ambassador will develop a Vroom work plan, and you will be able to have conversations about that Vroom work plan, and this will help stimulate conversation. It will give you opportunities to provide guidance and really see what how they plan to implement Vroom in their communities. So, looking at what are they planning, what are the action steps. So this will help with your conversation and your mentoring process. Also discussing which aspects of integrating Vroom into CCR and our outreach does the mentee need guidance. So asking them, what are some areas that they really could use your guidance? Where do they need your support? Determining action steps for each one of your meetings. Are there things that need to be done after the conclusion of your meeting before your next engagement? Identify any resources and support needed, and also discuss how progress will be measured. So from meeting to meeting, what are some indicators, or how will you determine with your mentee that progress is being made? And once again, using their Vroom work plans may help you assist with that. So moving on to reflecting and reporting. So there are some things that we will need you to keep track of to help us report to Vroom, as well as to give us feedback on this Vroom mentoring program, which will help us inform and guide planning for the future of the Vroom mentor piece of our Vroom partnership. So as far as reporting goes, I already mentioned this earlier, and you will see this form at our first group call in January, but you will have the Vroom Mentor Engagement Summary Form, and these are just some of the things that the summary form will cover. It will ask you just to briefly list the goal of the mentoring engagement, so that meeting that you're having with the mentee. What is the goal of that particular meeting or that mentoring engagement? What's the outcome of the mentoring engagement? What topics did you discuss? Was there any progress toward goals from a previous mentoring engagement? Did you talk about any challenges? Did you discuss any solutions for those challenges? Did you share resources or materials? And then also just documenting the date and the goal for the next mentoring engagement. So once again, you will be seeing this in a document format in the near future. And just to reiterate, these summary forms, they will be brief, and we would just ask that at the end, by the end of each month, that you will submit those forms to me. But you can submit them at any time. We just ask that by the last day of each month that they are all, submitted for that month. And reflecting. So we would ask that, you continually self-reflect on the mentoring relationship. This will help you as, you continue to develop your mentoring relationship with the Vroom ambassadors and kind of define what this process will look like between you as the Vroom mentor and the Vroom ambassador. And it may look differently for each child care resource and referral Vroom ambassador site that you have. But some of the self-reflecting questions that may help guide you is what aspect of the mentoring relationship is working well? How could the relationship be improved? Are there any needs for the mentor or mentee? What has been most useful and what has been the least useful? So these are all questions that you could use to really think about for each Vroom ambassador site. And here's a few more questions. How is the quality of communication during the mentoring engagements? Does it seem like the communication is flowing well? Is the Vroom mentee asking questions? Are you able to listen fully, during the engagements? Is there something that you could improve on or they could? What would make the experience better? What about the frequency of the communication? Is it enough? Is it too much? Where is progress occurring? So really thinking about, are you seeing progress in their Vroom outreach as well as in the mentoring relationship? And how else could the Vroom ambassador benefit from the mentoring engagements? Is there some other resource that could be shared? Is there another way to support and guide them or provide feedback that would be helpful? So we would invite you to write down any questions that you may have, and please bring them to our first group call on Tuesday, January 15th. Or feel free to email me or patients, and you can reach us at vroom@usa.childcareaware.org. And I'll just leave you with this quote. Mentoring is a brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction. So I think that really captures how we see this Vroom mentoring program playing out as a part of our Child Care Aware Vroom Partnership Initiative. And we are so happy to have you be a part of supporting and guiding and motivating and inspiring our new Vroom ambassadors. Patients, do you have anything to add?
No, I just want to reiterate what you said. We are very happy to have you all and work with you all for a few more months. So again, if you have any questions after listening to this webinar, viewing this webinar, please write your questions down and we will address them when we all get together as a group. Or you can email them again to us at vroom@usa.childcareaware.org. Thank you all.
Thank you.